the night my grandfather asked me to sit with him on the old wooden bench behind our ancestral house. I thought it would be like any other quiet evening, filled with his slow stories about the past and the faint smell of tobacco clinging to his wool sweater. But there was something different in the way he avoided my eyes, a heaviness pressing against the silence between us. And I remember thinking that age had finally caught up with him, because his hands trembled more than usual and his voice carried a strain I had never heard before. All my life, he had been my safe place, the man who taught me to ride a bicycle in the dusty lane behind the house, who slipped me candy when my mother said no, who told me that loyalty and truth were the only things a person truly owned. And maybe that is why what happened that night shattered me so completely, because the truth he chose to reveal did not just change how I saw him, it changed how I saw myself. As he began by asking if I trusted him, and I laughed softly, telling him of course I did, that he was the one person who had never lied to me. And that was when he inhaled deeply and said that sometimes love forces people to carry lies not out of cruelty but out of fear. And I felt a strange chill crawl across my skin, because those were not the kind of words you expect during a peaceful evening. And then he told me to listen without interrupting, to let him finish no matter how much it hurt. And then he said something that made the world tilt beneath my feet. The man I had called father for 23 years was not my biological father, and at first I thought I had misheard him, that perhaps the wind rustling through the lime tree had distorted his voice. But he repeated it calmly, painfully explaining that before my mother married my father, she had been engaged to someone else, a man who disappeared abruptly after a financial scandal, leaving her alone and pregnant in a small town where reputation meant everything, and it was my grandfather who decided that the truth would ruin her future, so he convinced my father, who had loved her quietly for years, to marry her and raise the child as his own. That child was me. And my chest tightened as memories rearranged themselves inside my mind, the whispered arguments I had overheard as a child, the distant look in my father's eyes during family gatherings, the way my mother would sometimes watch me with a mixture of pride and guilt, and suddenly they all made sense in a way I never wanted them to. And I felt anger rising like fire, because the two people who had raised me had built our family on a secret so enormous that it swallowed my identity whole. And I asked him why he was telling me now after decades of silence. And he said because the man who was my biological father had recently tried to contact the family through a lawyer, claiming he wanted to meet his daughter before it was too late. And my grandfather's voice cracked when he admitted that he had burned the first letter, just as he had buried the truth years ago. But that age had made him realize he might not have the right to decide my life anymore. I remember pacing across the uneven stones, feeling as though every childhood memory was dissolving into something uncertain. Because if my father was not my father, then what did that make our Sunday breakfasts? Our shared jokes, the pride in his eyes at my graduation, were those moments false? Or were they stronger because they were chosen rather than biological? And the more I thought about it, the more complicated everything became. Because I loved him, the man who raised me. Fiercely and without question, yet there was a part of me that felt betrayed. He had never trusted me with the truth, and my grandfather tried to explain that he believed he was protecting me, that society can be cruel to children born under scandal, that he had seen lives destroyed by gossip, and maybe he was right in his own time. But sitting there under the dim yellow porch light, I felt like a stranger in my own skin, like the ground beneath my history had cracked open, and I could not decide who deserved my anger more: the biological father who had vanished, the mother who had hidden the truth, the father who had agreed to the lie, or the grandfather who orchestrated it all with the confidence of someone who believed he knew best. And the shock did not end there, because he then revealed that the man seeking contact was seriously ill, that he had no other children, and that he wanted to leave something in my name, not just money, but a written confession of why he had disappeared, claiming he had been forced into exile by powerful relatives after refusing to participate in illegal dealings. And suddenly, the story grew darker, tangled with corruption and fear. And I realized my life had been shaped by decisions made in panic and secrecy long before. I was old enough to speak, and that night stretched endlessly as he spoke, each sentence peeling back another layer of the life I thought I knew, and I felt something fragile inside me begin to shift from pure anger to reluctant understanding. Because despite the deception, there had been love in every choice, flawed and misguided perhaps, but love nonetheless. And that realization confused me even more, because it is easier to hate a villain than to forgive someone who hurt you while trying to protect you. And when he finally fell silent, the crickets filling the gaps his confession left behind, I looked at him not as the unshakable pillar of my childhood, but as an old man burdened by regret. And I saw tears pooling in his tired eyes, tears he had likely held back for decades. And in that moment, the power dynamic reversed. I was no longer the granddaughter seeking guidance, but the adult deciding the fate of a secret that had defined our family. And I did not give him an answer that night about whether I would meet the man who shared my blood, because the decision felt too enormous to make in the shadow of such revelation. But I did tell him that the truth, even late, mattered, and that I wished he had trusted me with it sooner. He nodded, whispering that courage often arrives years after it is needed. And in the days that followed, I watched my parents differently, noticing the quiet respect between them, the shared glances layered with sacrifice. And when I finally confronted my mother, her tears confirmed everything. Her voice trembling as she apologized for building my childhood on a lie, yet insisting that not a single moment of love had been false. And my father, my real father, in every way that counts, stood beside her, admitting that he chose me the day he married her and never once regretted it. And the shock of that night with my grandfather did not fade quickly. It lingered like an echo in every room of our house, reshaping conversations and silences alike. But over time, I began to see that identity is not a single thread of biology, but a tapestry woven from choice, loyalty, and the courage to face uncomfortable truths. And while I still wrestle with the idea of meeting the man whose absence created so much turmoil, I know that the foundation of who I am was not destroyed on that bench under the neem tree. It was simply revealed to be more complicated than I had ever imagined. And perhaps that is the real secret families. Carry not just lies, but the fragile hope that love will survive them, that even when history is rewritten, the bonds we choose, the care we give, and the courage we find in truth can hold stronger than any secret ever could.